At long last, we finally have a Honda Civic ES. It's still a great car, by the way, even if it's 20 years old. We've seen some very good examples, and this one's with the 1.6 engine. And finally, I have had this header sitting around for, I think, almost a decade already, waiting for the right person to come in. But he has, and then what he wants is to have a full exhaust and then an intake, and we're gonna be tuning it also with Unichip. So let's get the first thing out of the way. Can you remap this car? Yes, using Unichip. If you want the direct OBD remap, no, it is not possible for these cars because, again, it's 20 years old. 20 years old ago, the word remap wasn't even in the dictionary. Google, it's not even in Google yet. So we'll be using Unichip to remap this. The computer box is inside, well, the car. It's behind the glove box actually. So these are a set of bolt-on 4-1 headers. And why 4-1? It's because, well, you can see here, it's only that short and there's a flange down there. So if you just want to change the headers and nothing else, this is what it is without changing the rest of the pipe. But since he wants a full exhaust, we'll be going everything all the way to the back. We've actually already installed an intake right here. So that's a K&N filter with a 3-inch tube. Oh, by the way, there's no such thing as too big for these cars because, as you can see, there is no mass airflow sensor. The older Civics, EK, EG, B16s don't have any mass airflow sensor here, unlike most of the modern cars. So what this does actually have a temp sensor right here. What they do have is a manifold absolute pressure sensor there in the manifold. So that's what's used to measure air. So with that out of the way, we're going to be removing this stock header. Then we're going to be doing the piping from this point on all the way to the back, and it will end in a Borla muffler and a Borla tip. And after that, of course, gonna wire in the Unichip. And I'll show you also exactly what goes into wiring a Unichip. It's about 8 wires for this car. And after that, let's go on the dyno. Oh, but before everything else, the reason why we're not doing anything is because we need to change out the clutch and clutch disc also, because when we tried to dyno it a while ago, the thing kept slipping. So that means the clutch hasn't been changed for the last maybe 50,000-60,000 kilometers. So that's job number 1. What we'll be putting here is not a racing clutch. We don't need any of that. We just will put the normal replacement, not Honda clutch, but it's made by XCD, I think. If it's not XCD, it's Daikin. It's one of the two. We don't need a racing clutch for the additional, my guess would be 13 to 16, maybe 17 horses that we will add to this engine. right, we're done with our intake and exhaust on this 2001, 2002 Civic, and these are the results. We did a baseline before, it's 80 horses. That's just about right because when these things came out, I think they're rated at 100. Let's check. Doo-dee-doo-dee-doo. Yep, it's 110 horses. Yep, so 110 horses. 80 horses, 30 less 30. That's pretty much what we expect from typical drivetrain loss, the front wheel drive. So 30 horses, so 80 horses, smack dab exactly where we're supposed to be. And after our intake and our exhaust, this is our graph now. So peak power went from 80 to 88. So we get about 8 horses more at top. At the bottom, we get an average gain of what's this about? This is 8. This one's almost 10 here, from 30 horse to 40 horse. That's more than 10. And this is 5 horse, 5 horse, 3 horse, 4 horse. So overall, we can safely say that our intake and exhaust got around 7 to 8 horses on average, which is typically what we also expect for a car that's 20 years old. Our torque, here's our torque graph also. So we went from maximum torque of 102 to 107, but this is at 5,000 RPM. The big thing here is from here at about 2,000 RPM. We went from 55 to 75, and then 65 to 95 Newton meters. This one is very important because this is where you spend 90% of your time in Metro Manila, up to 4,000 RPM. So this increase in torque, this about, if I average this out mentally, this will be about 23 Newton meters more. You will definitely feel this. We're not done with this car yet, so what we're doing now, it's back again on the dyno because we'll be installing the Unichip there. So this is our Unichip. As you saw a while ago how it was installed, because the computer box is here behind the glove compartment. So this is about 8 wires to install. In a nutshell, what these wires are, they're obviously, well, one, power and ground. You have to power the thing somehow. One wire goes to tap the crank signal, that's where we get RPM. Another 2 wires tap the mass airflow sensor, and the other 2 wires tap the crankshaft sensor, and the other wire taps to the throttle position sensor. That's, well, in the throttle, to know what throttle position is. So those basically are the 3 things we need. We need throttle, we need an RPM signal, and then we need an airflow signal. It varies from car to car on what connections or what, but these are the 3 main things that the Unichip needs to be able to tune the car. So once it's there, we put it back, all that in. Just hide that there. Then put that back on there. Put that back on there. There. And this is his USB thing. So everything goes back. And no one will know it's there. And also one of the reasons, well, the main reason why we chose Unichip for this car and not EC remap, like I said a while ago, car too old to remap. This is true for this generation CRV, Civic, Accord, Honda City, and Jazz. They came out in 2004. What did they have back then? The Accord. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the Honda lineup right there. Just for reference, Corollas of this generation, also the Corolla Altis from 2001 to about 2007, those cannot be remapped also. That has to be Unichip. Same thing with that generation Lancer. There's still the GSR being sold from 01 to 02. And the next one, the Lancer Sedia, that's still also Unichip, not remap. Basically, the early 2000s cars, no remap, only Unichip. Oh, X-Trail included. Okay, here's our results of Unichip tuning, and let's recap. Stock, intake and exhaust. This is Unichip tuning right here. So we're able to max out at around 95 horses. That's gonna take the same gain as 6,000, well, 6,800. We managed to make it rev to that. It went from 77 to 93, so that's 15 horses or so. 75 plus 2. Yeah, 14 horses or so. And all the way here from the bottom, we got here at 1,000, at 2,000, almost at 2,000 RPM. 70 to 24 is about 8 horses. At 25 RPM. 23, that's 13 horses. At 3,000 RPM. Oh, that's almost 20 horse right there. 16, 17 horses. So on and so forth. That, by the way, is how you count horsepower gain. It's not the single number here at the very end at 6,800 RPM. You have to get it every RPM, and then mathematically the way to do it is, let's get rid of this green line here. Mathematically, it's the area of this. So basically, this is a triangle. So you get the area of this triangle minus the area of this triangle. So this is what you want. This entire thing, if you average it out, I've been doing this a long time, so visually I can say this is about 12, 15 horses if you average the entire RPM band from 1,700 all the way to 6,800 RPM. So you get about, yeah, 15, 17 horses. Torque is the same story, so you get the area of this minus the area of that. So you're left with this one here. This one's about 25, 30 Newton meters total in average. But the biggest thing here that the customer will enjoy is this one. If you can see here on stock, our peak torque happens at 5,000 RPM. Here. So now, after tuning and everything, we get a lot more torque only at 3,000 RPM. So this is what you feel when you actually press the pedal, not this. I mean, power is power, but what you feel when you get pushed back to the seat is torque. And what will cause your wheels to spin is torque, so this is it. And if you take a look at that, compared to what the stock figure was before, the same RPM, same 3,000 RPM, 75 to 108, that's 30 Newton meters right there. You'll definitely feel that. And aside from obviously horsepower and torque, drive normally, which means that you now can shift earlier. It's a manual, by the way. You can shift earlier. You don't need to rev it all the way to 3,500 to get the power you want. You actually can just rev it to about, heck, here at 2,000. And at 2,000 RPM here, you get the same torque as when you rev it to 3.5 here. So you don't need to rev it all the way to get the same amount of torque, so you shift earlier. And if you shift earlier, there's less pedal, you should see about 8 to 10% better mileage because it will change your driving style. For automatics, it's the same thing. The automatic transmission will shift on its own faster because automatic shift on a predetermined torque input, not power. So if you make higher torque at a lower RPM, the automatic will shift faster to the next gear immediately instead of waiting, say, again, revving to 3.5, then it'll shift, go down to 2.5. So now it'll probably shift at 2.5, then go back down to 2. This is where the fuel economy comes from because you have a higher RPM, you have a lower RPM at a higher speed, at the higher gear. So that's what most people don't kind of understand when you say that when you remap, you make more power, but you also get better mileage. The better mileage comes from 99% of the time when you drive at city driving, so up to 3,000, 3,500 RPM, and then your pedal is not even 50%. We're talking about 15, 20% pedal only. So basically, in city driving, of course, when you're gonna go racing, you can forget about fuel economy. That's not the point when you go racing. But let's be honest, 99% of people who go through those gates come here, do not race. They just want a more powerful and more enjoyable car. So that's the whole point of what we do here with the intake, the exhaust, and the tuning, is to make your car more enjoyable for you to drive.